Our story opens in the bustling metropolis of Shanghai City, where inside a tranquil room, a woman with striking blue-green hair, Jiang Wangxin, is tenderly nursing her newborn son. She murmurs to her baby, Chen, about how fortunate he is to simply eat and sleep, smiling as she admits that while she's losing sleep over him, it's all worthwhile as long as he grows up strong and healthy. Unbeknownst to her, this is no ordinary infant. He is a reincarnated soul, possessing the full consciousness of his former life. As he feeds, he internally notes that while his brain is still developing, his awareness is completely intact. A blue, game-like status screen materializes before his eyes, identifying him as Lin Zichen, a mere 33 days old, with a biological level rated as ordinary tier 1. He immediately grasps that he's been granted a special cheat ability. Fast forward to 3 months of age, and we find Lin Zichen in his crib while his parents, Jiang Wangxin and Lin Yan, watch over him. His father remarks on how physically gifted the baby seems, predicting he'll grow up to become a mighty gene fuser, or at the very least, a formidable cyborg. As they speak, Lin Zichen is vigorously kicking, which triggers a system notification announcing he has just completed 10,000 kicks, granting him the biological attribute known as use and advances. This incredible skill allows any part of his body that he trains to grow infinitely stronger, pushing the very limits of carbon-based life. He feels a surge of new strength and wonders what his father truly meant by gene fusers and cyborgs, his mind picturing figures straight out of a superhero comic. By 4 months old, Lin Zichen has already taught himself to sit up and crawl. To keep from terrifying his parents with his unnaturally rapid progress, he cleverly restricts his training to the dead of night. With every single crawl, his system rewards him with valuable points. Just 1 month later, at 5 months of age, he has completely mastered walking. At 6 months, he can finally learn to sit up and crawl in front of his parents without arousing too much suspicion. It is while watching television that a news report about aberrant beasts flashes across the screen, showing gene fusers and cyborgs joining forces to combat them. For the very first time, Lin Zichen truly understands that this world is profoundly different from his previous one. He learns that this version of Earth has mutated, giving rise to terrifying creatures now known as aberrant beasts. To fight back, humanity developed 2 distinct evolutionary paths. The first is mechanical ascension, where humans augment their bodies with advanced technology to become powerful cyborgs. The second is gene modification, a process where humans fuse their DNA with that of aberrant beasts, becoming gene fusers to fight monsters with their own terrifying power. Grasping the true dangers of his new reality, the reincarnated Lin Zichen makes a firm resolution to use his system to grow up safely, evolve his abilities while maintaining a low profile, and ultimately, to survive in this perilous world. Then one day, the doorbell chimes. Jiang Wangxin answers the door to find a woman in a lovely blue dress, Xu Ming, who introduces herself as their new neighbor. Xu Ming presents her family, her husband, Shen Zani, and their young daughter, Shen Qinghan, who is clutching a small doll. Lin Zichen's eyes land on the little girl with the striking purple hair. In that moment, he acknowledges Shen Qinghan as his very first friend in this new life, sensing that their destinies are fated to one day be tightly intertwined. As time marches on, Lin Zichen dedicates every spare moment to his training. By 7 months, thanks to his use and advances skill, he has mastered running, jumping, and even basic language just by talking to himself, earning stat points for each and every activity. By the time he is 8 months old, his training regimen has progressed to performing sit-ups and push-ups right there in his crib. He is always careful to practice only when his parents are out of sight. However, one fateful day, his mother, Jiang Wangxin, happens to walk out onto the balcony and is absolutely shocked to see her 8-month-old son casually doing sit-ups. She rubs her eyes in utter disbelief. However, being a web novel author herself, she quickly dismisses the bizarre sight as a stress-induced hallucination. Lin Zichen immediately feigns sleep, breathing a silent sigh of relief. And vowing to be more careful in the future. Just a few days later, while bathing him, Jiang Wang stumbles upon yet another astonishing sight. She lets out a shriek for her husband, Lin Yan. When he comes rushing in, she frantically points out that their infant son, merely 8 months old, has a perfectly sculpted six-pack. Lin Yan is utterly flabbergasted. He excitedly speculates that their child could be a 1-in-a-million prodigy, destined for greatness as either a powerful gene fuser or a formidable cyborg. Overhearing this wild theory, Lin Zichen feels a wave of relief wash over him, knowing his secret remains hidden. He realizes just how fortunate he is to have 2 web novel authors for parents, and he reflects that on this strange, mutated Earth, he isn't the only gifted child. He and his mother are watching a news report about a 2-year-old from a prestigious martial arts family who can effortlessly hoist a 20-kilogram dumbbell with a single hand. Jiang Wang pulls her son into a tight embrace, proudly declaring that her precious Chen is every bit as incredible. Lin Zichen is moved by his mother's unwavering faith and begins to wonder if he too will be able to lift 20 kilograms by the time he reaches the age of 2. Sure enough, by his 2nd birthday, Lin Zichen's relentless training has yielded impressive results. He has managed to keep a low profile while secretly honing his power, now capable of easily lifting a 20-kilogram weight with one hand in the privacy of the storage room. His training session is cut short when his mother calls out that Han, Shen Han's nickname, has arrived to play. Startled, he quickly sets the weight down and heads outside. He opens the door to find Shen Han, who is also 2 years old now, holding out a small tart for him. Lin Zichen muses to himself that because of their vast difference in mental age, their playtime is anything but conventional. While Han Han acts like a typical toddler, he seizes every available moment to continue his training. He's even devised a unique method for spending time with her. Since she insists on sticking close to him, she functions as the perfect, custom-sized weighted vest for his workouts. There is, however, one persistent issue, a fact he's abruptly reminded of when he feels a familiar warm wetness and exclaims that Han Han has had an accident on him once again. Another year flies by. Now at the age of 3, Lin Zichen's strength has grown exponentially, allowing him to lift a 40-kilogram weight with a single hand. While watching television, he sees a news report about a 4-year-old prodigy lifting a 30-kilogram dumbbell and notes with a quiet sense of satisfaction that he's already surpassed that. Despite his incredible progress, his system still classifies his biological level as a mere ordinary Tier 1. He can't help but wonder what it will take to finally break through to Tier 2. With these pressing questions on his mind, he steps out of his house for the very first time. The world that greets him is a breathtaking futuristic cityscape, bustling with beastmen and cyborgs, whom he correctly assumes are the gene fusers and cyborgs his parents mentioned. Accompanied by his mother and their neighbors, Xu Meng and Shen Qinggan, he makes his way to the local library. Because his parents forbid him from using electronic devices, books have become his primary source of information. Once inside the library, his mother gestures towards the children's section, but Lin Zichen has other plans. He makes a beeline for the advanced encyclopedias, with a concerned Shining Han trailing right behind him. The two mothers watch on, completely baffled. Xu Meng asks why on earth he's drawn to such difficult books, and Jiang Wang simply chalks it up to his genius genes. While Shining Han tries to tempt him with cookies, Lin Zichen is completely engrossed in his reading. From the pages of the encyclopedias, he discovers that all life is categorized into 6 distinct biological levels: ordinary, advanced, rare, epic, legendary, and mythical, with each level further divided into 9 tiers. He quickly realizes that normal humans, like his own parents, are at the absolute bottom of this hierarchy. They are ordinary Tier 1, as insignificant as ants when compared to higher-level beings. This startling revelation lights a fire within Lin Zichen. He understands now that he must accelerate his training, and fast. While flawlessly playing the part of an ordinary child, his system chimes in with a new, monumental quest: devour 100 million characters of text to claim the legendary celestial root of wisdom. Thrilled by the opportunity to hone both his intellect and his physique, he eagerly accepts the challenge. For the next year, Lin Zichen dedicates himself to a grueling regimen of intense physical conditioning and insatiable reading. By the time he turned 4, he and Shen Qinghan began their kindergarten journey, innocently holding hands with their teacher, Miss Jiang Mei. But beneath this harmless exterior, his relentless training was bearing fruit. Shortly after school began, he shattered his limits and ascended to ordinary Tier 2. His physical capabilities were now simply monstrous for his age. He could effortlessly hoist an 80-kilogram weight with a single hand and clear a high jump of 1.2 meters. Furthermore, he could blaze through a 100-meter sprint in under 11 seconds, feats that would be remarkable for a grown man, let alone a kindergartner. One day, his predictable routine was interrupted. He stumbled upon a group of children cruelly encircling a tearful Shen Qinghan, taunting her relentlessly. The moment he saw his friend being tormented, he knew he had to intervene. Without a moment's hesitation, he launched himself dramatically into the middle of the bullies, his eyes flashing with a cold glare as he unleashed a truly terrifying threat. "If any of you ever bother Han Han again," he declared, "I'll personally make sure your beds get a surprise nightly shower." The childish yet menacing vow struck its mark perfectly. The bullies immediately burst into tears, swearing they would never set foot in kindergarten again. In that moment, Shen Qinghan gazed at her hero, her eyes filled with pure admiration. This single act unlocked a brand new achievement for him, the coveted title of Kindergarten Kid King, which came with its own series of quests. He was thrilled at the prospect of tackling multiple quests simultaneously. Just half a year later, his literary marathon concluded. After consuming a staggering 100 million characters, he was finally awarded the Celestial Root of Wisdom, a prize that bestowed upon him a flawless eidetic memory and the absolute peak of human learning capability. Time seemed to fly by, and before they knew it, he and Shen Qinghan were nearly 7 years old, posing for their kindergarten graduation picture. But even the school vacation offered no respite. Lin Zichen refused to rest, now powerful enough to train with a colossal 200-kilogram barbell. Over the course of that vacation, his abilities soared to new heights. He could now leap over 2 meters into the air and had shattered the 8-second barrier in the 100-meter dash, clocking in at an incredible 7.98 seconds. His mind, amplified by his new attribute, was just as formidable. He had already mastered the majority of the entire elementary school curriculum on his own. His next chapter began at Sunshine Elementary School. Because he was already self-studying subjects far beyond his grade level, academic competitions were a complete breeze. He effortlessly claimed first place at the National Elementary School Academic Competition, his primary goal being to unlock his next title as swiftly as possible. Whenever he found a spare moment, he devoted it to helping his friend. He would give Shen Qinghan private tutoring, and while she wasn't a prodigy like him, her diligence was second to none. Under his guidance, her academic performance improved dramatically, and after just 1 semester, she had risen to become the second-ranked student in their entire class. with Lin Zichen, of course, firmly holding the first-place spot. To accelerate his quest progress, he also entered school sports meets, where he proceeded to shatter every existing record. Just as he was settling into this predictable routine of absolute dominance, his school life was interrupted by the arrival of a very special new transfer student. The teacher introduced the newcomer to the class, a girl with striking long silvery blue hair named Bai Shuer. The moment Lin Zichen saw her, he knew she was different. As she stood poised in the doorway, he could detect a faint, otherworldly aura emanating from her, an energy that no ordinary human possessed. As the new transfer student, Bai Shuer, made her way to an empty seat, all the other students watched her with a mixture of curiosity and awe. Shen Qinghan leaned over to Lin Zichen, whom she affectionately called Xiao Chen, and whispered about how beautiful Bai Shuer's hair was, comparing it to the glistening of winter snowflakes. Lin Zichen, however, was in no mood to discuss appearances. As Bai Shuer took a seat near him, his mind was racing. His focus was entirely on the strange, non-human energy he felt radiating from her. He couldn't help but wonder, was she a gene, fuser, or perhaps the descendant of something far more ancient? 1. Over the next few days, Bai proved to be a complete enigma, never speaking to anyone and resting her head on her desk the moment class concluded, where she would remain perfectly still. She barely even got up to use the restroom. At first, the other students were curious, some even snapping photos with her while she slept, but as her peculiar behavior persisted, they lost interest, and the classroom returned to its normal routine. This peace was shattered more than a month later when a bizarre phenomenon began. Bai Shuer started to exude a thick, white fluid. The substance carried a repulsive odor and would trickle down her clothes and legs. Her classmates reacted with revulsion, complaining about the terrible stench. A particularly cruel boy sneered a vulgar comment about the liquid before dumping his water bottle over her head, taunting that he was washing her out. Utterly humiliated and drenched, Bayu's hand tightened into a fist on her desk as tears streamed down her face, her shoulders trembling with silent sobs. The bullies erupted into cruel laughter at her pain. Watching from their seats, Shen Qinghan turned to Lin Shichen with a worried look, asking if they shouldn't help poor Bayu. Lin Shichen was confused. He had always sensed that Bayu was dangerous, so he couldn't comprehend why she was crying. Still, he agreed to intervene. As he walked toward the bullies, he began to reconsider his initial judgment. While he still didn't understand her, he realized that, for the moment, she was no threat. She was just a weak girl being tormented, and he had to step in. Lin Shichen strode up to the ringleader and grabbed him by the collar, calling out his name, Guan Chun. With a menacing grin, he ordered the boy to wipe the water off Bayu's desk. Guan Chun was petrified, stammering that he would clean it up immediately. The other bullies knew they were in trouble. Lin Shichen was well known at school for being a master of both academics and fighting. Not even the sixth graders dared to challenge him. Knowing it was best to obey, they scrambled for tissues and cleaned up the mess. Once the desk was spotless, Lin Shichen's cold gaze swept over the group. He commanded every single one of them to apologize to her immediately. The bullies, sweating and terrified, quickly complied. They formed a line before her desk and bowed their heads, offering their apologies and promising they would never torment her again. Once the bullies were gone, Bayu looked up, her eyes still filled with tears. She gratefully thanked both Lin Shichen and Shen Qinghan. Shen Qinghan placed a comforting hand on Bayu's shoulder, telling her that classmates are meant to look out for one another. From that day on, Shen Qinghan made it her mission to befriend the quiet, white-haired girl, always dragging Lin Shichen along for the ride. The three of them began to spend all their free time together. Shen Qinghan was especially kind, always sharing her most delicious snacks with Bayu first. During one of these moments, as Shen Qinghan offered her a treat, Bayu hesitated. She looked at them and asked if they weren't disgusted by her because she smelled so awful. She explained that she was sorry for not trusting them, but ever since she was little, she had been ostracized by everyone. Having someone show her kindness felt so unreal that she thought she must be dreaming. Bai Shuer looked up in surprise when Shen Qinghan firmly told her that this was not a dream. Shen Qinghan smiled gently and said she knew what that was like, so she would never be repulsed by her. She declared that as long as Bayu was willing, they would be friends forever, pulling a slightly exasperated Lin Shichen into the promise. Overcome with emotion, Bai Shuer hugged them tightly, embraces Shen Qinghan. Overcome with emotion as tears of gratitude streamed down her face for their incredible kindness. Once she's gathered herself, she insists on giving them a token of her appreciation. She presents a necklace adorned with a pair of beast fangs, sharing that it was a cherished birthday gift from her mother. She offers it to them, hoping it will serve as a memento of their budding friendship. Shen Qinghan accepts with excitement, and the trio stands united in the schoolyard under the setting sun, joyfully vowing to be friends for all time. Yet, just as their bond was forged, fate took a cruel and unexpected turn. One day, Shen Qinghan is left utterly shocked by the news that Bayu has suddenly transferred out of their school. Lin Shichen confirms the unsettling news, admitting he witnessed her completing the withdrawal forms. He recalls the memory of watching from the doorway of the principal's office, where he saw Bayu speaking with the principal, and a hulking, menacing man outfitted with cybernetic arms. The principal was heard assuring the man that all of Baishu's paperwork was in order and that her personal information would remain strictly confidential. This strange meeting only solidified Lin Shichen's suspicions that there was more to Bayu's identity than met the eye. From that day forward, he never laid eyes on Bayu again, leaving him with nothing but questions about her disappearance. However, he notes that the events that unfolded next were what truly seized his focus. Sometime later, Lin Zichen is at home, dutifully giving his mother, Jiang Wangshin, a shoulder massage. She lets out a sigh of pure relief, praising his skill and saying the massage is exactly what she needed after a grueling day of typing. Lin Zichen muses internally that he'd mastered professional massage techniques due to his celestial root of wisdom, marveling at how surprisingly practical the ability was. But their peaceful evening is shattered by an urgent news bulletin. The report highlights yet another astounding feat by the prodigy from Kyoto. At the tender age of just 10, the boy had successfully undergone fusion with aberrant beast genes, enabling him to lift a 500-kilogram boulder using only one hand. Lin Zichen instantly recognizes the boy, and it hits him like a lightning bolt that his rival has already embarked on the path of gene fusion. His father, Lin Yan, grumbles about how the Kyoto prodigy is constantly on television, wondering aloud if they're attempting to groom him into some kind of celebrity influencer. His parents begin to debate the matter. Lin Yan explains that the boy hails from a 1,000-year-old martial arts dynasty, which means they most likely possess highly advanced gene fusion technology. Jiang Wangshin counters, arguing that it's morally wrong to use a child as a test subject. Her husband retorts that for a family of such stature, the clan's interests always take precedence, which earns him a dry, "Of course, you know absolutely everything," from his wife. As his parents squabble, Lin Zichen is lost in his own world of calculations. He remembers that before the fusion procedure, the prodigy's limit was lifting 100 kilograms. Now, he can hoist 500 kilograms, a staggering 5-fold power increase. In stark contrast, Lin Zichen, at only 8 years old, can already manage a 300-kilogram weight with a single hand, all without the aid of gene fusion. He clenches his fist, concluding with a surge of confidence that his own untapped potential is vastly superior. His self-assurance was at an all-time high, but this feeling would prove to be tragically fleeting. The very next news segment would introduce him to the raw, visceral meaning of terror. A breaking news story flashes across the screen, showing a city in a neighboring nation that has been utterly annihilated by a colossal explosion. The reporter states that, based on available footage, the horrific attack was perpetrated by gigantic aberrant rats. The broadcast then displays chilling scenes of monstrous rodents overrunning the smoldering ruins, their massive maws snatching a screaming woman from the rubble. The horrifying spectacle concludes as the creatures descend upon her in a frenzy. The news report goes on, confirming that heretical groups were the masterminds behind the aberrant rat swarm, orchestrating the chaos from the shadows. During a subsequent press conference, a government official from the devastated Sakura country was making desperate pleas for international aid, explaining that the heretics were a shadowy cult manipulating the beasts from behind the scenes. As Lin Zichen watched the news, he learned this cult was a treacherous anti-human organization, composed of traitors serving the aberrant beasts purely for their own selfish gain. He felt a profound sense of relief to be born in such a powerful and stable nation, a sanctuary that provided him a safe place to cultivate his strength while remaining unnoticed. His quiet thoughts were suddenly shattered by the thunderous roar of sonic booms outside. He bolted to the window and ripped back the curtain, only to see a squadron of heavily armed cyborgs streaking across the night sky. He couldn't help but wonder why so many of them were being deployed, hoping desperately it wasn't a sign of some impending disaster. The next morning, everything on the surface seemed perfectly normal. Lin Zichen waited for Shen Qinghan, who soon came running up, breathlessly apologizing for being late. As she drew near, however, he noticed something peculiar. The beast fang necklace that Boer had given them, now worn by Shen Qinghan, began to emit a brilliant blue radiance. He realized in that instant that the fang was from an aberrant beast, and it was the very source of the faint, non-human aura he'd always sensed from her. The glow vanished as quickly as it had appeared, and the two children didn't pay it much mind. However, between the cyborgs and the fang's bizarre reaction, Lin Zichen couldn't shake the ominous feeling that something terrible was about to unfold. On their way to school, a striking woman with long, crimson hair and a sleek black dress was leaning against a lamppost, her eyes fixed on them. She commented on what adorable kids they were before stepping directly in front of them, casually asking if they were brother and sister. Shen Qinghan proudly puffed out her chest and corrected her, explaining that they were childhood best friends. The woman's smile turned wistful as she remarked how she too wished she had a childhood friend. Then, her entire expression twisted into something sinister. She leaned in, her eyes glinting with a hidden agenda, and asked why they were going to school all alone and where their parents could possibly be. As Shen Qinghan innocently began to answer, Lin Zichen swiftly grabbed her hand, cutting her off mid-sentence. He pulled her along, stating firmly that they were going to be late, leaving the mysterious woman standing in their wake. Once they were a safe distance away, he gently chided Shen Qinghan, reminding her of the golden rule not to talk to strangers. She nodded obediently. After school, Lin Zichen deliberately led them through a completely deserted alleyway. Shen Qinghan shivered, commenting nervously on how creepy the place was. Lin Zichen simply explained the area was slated for demolition, and everyone had already moved out. Their walk was suddenly interrupted by a chillingly familiar voice. The red-haired woman from that morning emerged from the shadows, remarking how they were finally out of school. She wasn't by herself. A large, hulking man named Shang was with her. The woman called out to him, "Shang, I've got the kids over here." Alarm bells screamed in Lin Zichen's mind. He had purposely chosen a different route, but she had somehow managed to track them. The woman tried to lure them closer with a sickeningly sweet voice, offering them candy and treats. Her accomplice, Shang, was clearly out of patience. He grunted for her to stop the chatter and just knock the kids out so they could finish the job. Without another word, Shang lunged toward them with a cloth in his hand, bellowing that he was in a hurry to sell them for a quick payday. As the brute closed in, Lin Zichen shoved Shen Qinghan out of harm's way and squared up to face him directly. He balled his fist and threw a devastatingly powerful punch with every ounce of his being. The blow connected squarely with Shang's face, stopping the much larger man dead in his tracks. The sheer, unbelievable force of the impact sent Shang hurtling backward down the alley, letting out a cry of agony. The red-haired woman stared in absolute disbelief, utterly shocked that a mere elementary schooler could send a full-grown man flying. Sprawled on the pavement, Shang coughed up blood, completely dazed. With the big man down, Lin Zichen turned his cold gaze toward the red-haired woman. Without a moment's hesitation, he drives a solid punch into her gut, following it up with a powerful uppercut that sends her into unconsciousness. Looming over the defeated kidnappers, his face becomes a mask of cold determination as he grabs a nearby brick, his intentions turning grim. He realizes that in this camera-free, deserted alley, he has to silence them for good. If they survive, his extraordinary powers will be revealed, shattering his plan to stay under the radar and build his strength. Just as he's about to deliver the finishing strike, the ground begins to tremble violently. A massive earthquake rocks the alley, catching everyone completely off guard. Seconds later, a gigantic clawed hand bursts through the wall of a nearby building. A monstrous, giant aberrant rat emerges from the swirling dust and rubble, its sheer size dwarfing everything around it. The beast pays the children no mind, instead looming over the unconscious woman, but rather than eating her, it removes her head with a single, swift swipe of its claws. The rat then stoops to pick up her severed head, causing Shen Qinghan to let out a blood-curdling scream of terror. Instantly recognizing the grave danger, Lin Zichen scoops the horrified Shen Qinghan into his arms. He quickly explains it's a giant aberrant rat and that they need to escape immediately. He turns on his heel and sprints away at full speed, carrying her as they make their escape. In the midst of their flight, a brilliant flash of red and gold streaks across the sky. A female cyborg with flowing blonde hair and rabbit ear attachments on her helmet dives straight into the chaotic alley. She moves with almost unbelievable speed, becoming a blur of motion as she zips past the colossal rat. Shen Qinghan, peering over Lin Zichen's shoulder, can't help but exclaim at how unbelievably fast the cyborg is moving. The warrior lands gracefully behind the monster. Turning to face the rat, the female cyborg readies her attack. Her gauntlet begins to glow, she powers up her weapon and announces anesthetic smoke. She then fires a volley of projectiles directly at the monster, triggering a series of massive explosions that violently shake the entire alley. Lin Zichen instinctively shields Shen Qinghan from the concussive blast. The aberrant rat is engulfed in the fiery detonations, roaring in agony as it's left dazed and disoriented by the anesthetic smoke. Seizing the opportunity, the cyborg surges forward, finishing off the weakened beast with a rapid flurry of devastating strikes. Sometime later, Lin Zichen is at home watching a news report covering the incident. He meticulously analyzes the battle, concluding that the cyborg's power level probably isn't all that high. His reasoning is that she had to weaken the rat first, and even then, it still took her a full 7 minutes to defeat it. He reflects on the inherent danger of giant aberrant rats, knowing full well they are formidable creatures that can grow over 10 meters long and reach the level of an ordinary 5th-tier threat. Feeling fortunate that they escaped unharmed, the incident serves as a stark reminder of the world's hidden dangers. He resolves to intensify his training regimen to better protect himself and the people he cares about. He is later shown in his personal training space, performing weighted squats with a heavy barbell, and his internal system rewards him with experience points for his efforts. Even though the threat of aberrant rats looms large, life must go on. Before long, he and Shen Qinghan are celebrating their 9th birthday together, with both of their families gathered around a large cake. After they make their wishes, they eagerly exchange gifts. Thanks to his unique celestial root of wisdom, Lin Zichen had managed to teach himself how to carve in a single night, and he presents Shen Qinghan with an intricately crafted wooden hairpin. She is absolutely overjoyed, immediately placing it in her hair and exclaiming just how much she loves her new gift. Time flies by, and soon enough, Lin Zichen and Shen Qinghan graduate from elementary school and are ready to begin middle school. As this chapter of their lives closes, his system notifies him that he has successfully completed the Dominate 9 years of compulsory education achievement, which in turn unlocks the titles of Kindergarten Kid King and Elementary School Top Dog titles, setting his sights on the Middle School Overlord achievement, which promised to bestow upon him the coveted Survival of the Fittest attribute. During the school break, he committed himself to a grueling, high-intensity training regimen, which included performing 1,000 push-ups while bearing the weight of a massive boulder, a method that yielded enormous boosts to his stats. His relentless effort paid off right before school was set to begin. Following a 10-kilometer run, his system alerted him that his biological level had finally broken through to the ordinary 3rd tier. As a result, his physical attributes skyrocketed. He could now effortlessly lift 700 kilograms with a single hand and boasted a vertical jump of 4 meters, while also being able to sprint the 100-meter dash in a mere 6 seconds. With his power growing exponentially, he couldn't help but wonder what level the famed Kyoto prodigy had managed to reach. By a stroke of fate, a news story aired on television the very night before school began, revealing that the now 14-year-old prodigy had successfully fused with giant ant genes, enabling him to lift a 2,000-kilogram alloy block with just one hand. Linson, however, quickly did the math. He figured that since giant ant genes amplify strength by a factor of 4 to 8, the prodigy's actual lifting capacity, stripped of the gene enhancement, was only about 500 kilograms. This realization meant Lin Zichen was still fundamentally the stronger of the two. A confident smile spread across his face as he imagined just how unstoppable he would become with his own future gene fusions. The following day marked the start of middle school, and because he was the city's top-ranking student, every prestigious middle school in the area vied to recruit him. Ultimately, he accepted the invitation from Shanghai Middle School, but on the sole condition that Shanning Han would be placed in the same class. Upon their arrival for registration, they were personally welcomed by the principal and their new homeroom teacher, both of whom expressed the high expectations they had for him. After exchanging a few brief pleasantries, he quickly made an excuse and departed with Shen Qinghan. The true reason he'd selected Shanghai Middle School had nothing to do with academics, it was for its superb athletic facilities. The two had planned to get in a game of badminton on the school's court before classes were officially underway. Once they were on the court, an eager Shen Han told Lin Zhen Xiaochen it was time to begin. She served the shuttlecock with a dramatic flourish, calling out her special move, the fairy's curveball. Linda Chan effortlessly plucked the shuttlecock from midair, but just as their game was about to get going, they were interrupted by a group of approaching upperclassmen. Their leader, a cocky kid in a backward cap, snatched the shuttlecock right out of the air, informing them that the court was now reserved for them. His cronies then mockingly offered to let Shanning Han stay behind and spar with them. Unintimidated, Shanning Han stood her ground, telling them that they had to follow the rules, pointing out that she and Lin Zichen had arrived first. But seeing the bullies inch closer to Shanning Han, Lin Zichen stepped in, his expression turning ice cold. He ordered them to get away from her and reiterated the simple first-come, first-served rule. The leader just scoffed arrogantly, declaring that he was taking the court regardless. He then held up the shuttlecock and tossed it into the air. But before he could even swing his racket, Lin Zichen moved like a flash. He declared that from this moment on, his rules were the only ones that mattered. Channeling a surge of raw power, he leaped into the air and smashed the shuttlecock with unbelievable force. The tiny projectile rocketed across the court like a white bullet. It moved with such blinding speed that the leader barely had time to react before the force of the impact completely shattered his racket and sent his cap flying off his head. The upperclassmen were left utterly stunned, sweating profusely and trembling in fear. They could only wonder if Lin Zian was even human, immediately questioning if he was some kind of gene fuser. One of them noted with sheer terror that if the shot had been off by even a few centimeters, it would have taken their boss's head clean off. Thoroughly and completely intimidated, the upperclassmen immediately bowed deeply in a profound apology. They stammered to Lin Zan that they understood the rules now and would be leaving at once, before quickly beating a swift retreat. It seemed the tale of the incident had made its rounds, as no one dared to bother Lin Zichen or Shen Qinghan ever again. Their new school was larger and better equipped, but otherwise, life continued as usual. In terms of academics, Lin Zichen was leaps and bounds ahead, having already mastered the middle school curriculum long before. He often passed the time in class by reading captivating books to occupy his mind. In the evenings, following his workouts, he would tap into his celestial root of wisdom to acquire new abilities from the internet with incredible speed, exploring everything from cooking and photography to driving, swimming, and a variety of sports. To unlock the middle school overlord title, he did more than just secure the top rank in every subject. He also went on to represent the school in national-level competitions. He soon found himself surrounded by a mountain of trophies. However, in an effort to maintain a low profile, he deliberately avoided taking first place in every single event. An entire semester passed, yet the coveted title remained elusive. Nevertheless, his remarkable achievements had attracted a legion of female admirers who would leave piles of love letters on his desk, all of which he completely ignored. Besides helping Shen Qinghan with her studies, he poured all his focus into the upcoming school sports festival. He was convinced that a display of absolute dominance there would finally unlock the title. For the festival, he strategically signed up for just 3 events: the shot put, the high jump, and the sprint, which perfectly represented the core attributes of strength, jumping ability, and speed. In the shot put, he managed an unbelievable throw of 2,011 meters. Although he was holding back to avoid appearing inhumanly powerful, he still effortlessly claimed first place in all of his events. Right as he was sitting beside Shen Qinghan, admiring his newly won gold medal, he felt a sudden surge of unfamiliar power coursing through his veins. A system notification promptly popped up, announcing that his achievements had far eclipsed those of every other student, thereby unlocking the middle school overlord title. Now that all 3 school-age titles were his, the dominant 9 years of compulsory education achievement was finally complete, granting him a new biological attribute, survival of the fittest. As this new power settled within him, he felt a deep satisfaction knowing the title was at last his. Later, as Lin Zixin and Shen Qinghan were leaving the school grounds, he began to contemplate his new survival of the fittest attribute. This powerful ability allowed a predator to devour the life essence of other beings in order to evolve. He found himself wondering what exactly life essence was, lost in his thoughts until Shen Qinghan called out for him to wait up. Snapping back to the present, a brilliant idea struck him. He turned to Shen Qinghan and asked if he could borrow her beast fang necklace for a moment, to which she agreed and handed it over. The very instant his fingers made contact with the fang, a system notification flashed into view, informing him that he had just devoured a trace amount of the abyssal giant butterfly's life essence, which unlocked a new guidebook showing 1% progress. Suddenly, the spectral image of an enormous dark butterfly adorned with eyes on its wings materialized around him. He was completely stunned to realize that the fang was actually the tooth of a butterfly. Later that night, hoping to find more information, he searched online for the abyssal giant butterfly. Much to his surprise, his search yielded absolutely no results. Realizing he would have to research this exotic creature himself, he suddenly remembered that Bai Shuer had given them a pair of fangs. He quickly rummaged through his bag and located the second tooth. Taking hold of the second fang, he once more began to absorb its latent power. Another system notification confirmed that he had devoured a second trace of life essence, but the guidebook's progress had only increased to a mere 2%. He stared at the fang in his hand with a hint of disappointment. Realizing that there was hardly any life essence remaining within it, he concluded that he would have to find an alternative method to unlock the abyssal giant butterfly's full potential. The following day after classes, aiming to enhance his training and secure a swift getaway from any aberrant beasts, Lin Zichen begins escorting Shen Han to and from school by bike each day. Just as they're departing from the school grounds, a voice calls out his name. The man, clad in a tracksuit, halts their progress and introduces himself as Coach Guo, the head of the school's martial arts team. He showers Lin Zichen with praise, declaring his performance at the sports meet the greatest in the school's entire history. With immense enthusiasm, Coach Guo extends a formal invitation for him to join the team, insisting that his natural athletic gifts far outshine his academic abilities. He urges Lin Zhen to say yes, but also offers him time to learn about the team before deciding. Coach Guo's words pour out with such speed and passion that Lin Zichen can't find a single opening to refuse. Waving farewell as they pedal away, the coach shouts that the martial arts team is located in room C of the gymnasium and that he'll be eagerly awaiting his visit if he has a free moment the next day. As twilight descends, Lin Zichen finds himself back in his room, prepared to put his newfound ability to the test. He slams his hands together, crushing a cockroach and a mosquito he managed to find. He then parts his palms to inspect the lifeless insects, but he feels no surge of power whatsoever. It dawns on him that eliminating such small, mundane creatures isn't enough to activate the skill. He quickly deduces that only formidable or exotic beasts possess a sufficient amount of life essence to be devoured for his evolutionary progress. In order to verify this new hypothesis, Lin Zichen resolves to visit a supermarket known for selling beast meat. With Shen Han seated behind him, he pedals them towards the city center. Before long, they pull up to a massive, multi-story supermarket. Once inside, they meander through the various aisles, and Lin Zichen observes that while there's an abundance of beast meat available, it is all sealed in prepackaged containers. He knows he won't be able to test his theory without making direct contact with the meat. Just as a wave of frustration begins to wash over him, he overhears a butcher loudly advertising freshly cut beast meat. His eyes land on a counter bearing a sign that reads "Fresh beast meat, not prepackaged, safe to eat," where a butcher is skillfully carving up enormous slabs of meat. He tells a bewildered Shen Han to wait for a moment, saying he's just going to check out the meat selection. Without any further explanation, driven by the eagerness to confirm his suspicions, he hurries over to the counter. He extends his arm and lays his hand upon a slab of freshly carved beast meat. The very instant he makes contact, a potent surge of violet energy floods into his body. It's exactly as he suspected. The beast meat is brimming with a powerful current of life essence. He clenches his fist in sheer excitement, a broad grin spreading across his face. Shen Han watches on, utterly bewildered, wondering why he's so thrilled just from making contact with a piece of meat. She tentatively approaches him, a look of confused concern on her face, and asks how the meat feels. Attempting to act nonchalant, Lin Zichen casually tells the perplexed Shen Han that the meat simply feels much fresher than usual, and then asks if she'd like to feel it as well. She frantically waves her hands in refusal, insisting that he has touched it quite enough for the both of them. Now that his theory has been proven correct, Lin Zichen decides to purchase some of the beast meat to experiment with at home, a decision that startles Shen Han. He's not taken aback by her reaction, as he's well aware that beast meat is notoriously expensive. Even the most affordable option, the ghost shadow squid, commands a price of nearly 1,000 yen per jin. Settling on the squid, he picks up a package. Shen Han is sent into a panic by the price tag, telling him it's far too costly and that he absolutely must ask his mother for permission first. Lin Zichen simply smiles and gives her head a reassuring pat. He tells her not to fret, concocting a quick lie that his mom had already urged him to purchase a generous amount for both of their families. A brief flashback reveals his mother, Jiang Wangxin, joyfully promising to prepare a grand feast. In his thoughts, Lin Zichen concedes that while sharing the food is part of his scheme, his primary and more crucial motive is to discover whether he can absorb life essence by eating it, since he's concerned that direct absorption might cause the precious meat to rot. At the checkout counter, he purchases 3 packs of the ghost shadow squid, ringing up a hefty price of 29.94 yen. The female cashier politely thanks him for his purchase. As they depart from the store, Lin Zichen mulls over the steep cost of the meat, pondering when they might ever be able to afford such a luxury again. By the time their shopping is complete, the clock has ticked past 9 in the evening. Aware that the city has been fraught with chaos recently, They decide it's best to head straight home for their own safety. During the ride back, Lin Zichen's mind is consumed with thoughts of his experiment. Unable to contain his curiosity, he stealthily places a hand on the package of meat resting in the basket. Instantly, he feels a familiar and powerful surge of purple energy. His system confirms the successful absorption of a trace amount of the ghost shadow squid's life essence. In response, a brand new guidebook for the creature unlocks, yet his progress bar shows a mere 0.1%. A ghostly image of the menacing, multi-eyed squid materializes in his mind's eye. While they pedal through the quiet city streets, he quickly performs some mental calculations and realizes that absorbing such a small amount of the meat only unlocked a tiny fraction of its true power. He estimates that he would need to consume a full 100 jins to achieve 100% completion in the guidebook, a feat that would cost a staggering 100,000 yen. He then contemplates the squid's unique ability to dissolve into water and vanish without a trace, and he quickly decides that such a powerful skill is well worth the exorbitant price. His path forward is crystal clear. He needs to earn a massive sum of money, since there is no way he could ask his family for such an enormous amount. Just then, he recalls his second reason for purchasing the meat in the first place: to test whether absorbing its life essence would cause it to spoil. He casts a quick glance at the package. Some time has passed, but the meat still appears perfectly fresh. A wide grin spreads across his face, thrilled that absorbing the essence doesn't ruin the food. As he continues to silently draw out its power, his progress bar for the squid steadily climbs to 3%. His intense concentration is suddenly shattered when Shining Han yells out a warning. He immediately slams on the brakes, screeching to a halt mere inches away from a couple standing in the bike lane, and quickly offers an apology. He mentally kicks himself for his carelessness, then wonders why the bike lane is so congested with people all of a sudden. Shining Han points further down the street. Their eyes land on a tense standoff. A muscular, red-haired man is holding a woman hostage with a knife to her throat. With a jolt of terror, Shining Han recognizes the hostage as their teacher, Miss Xia. The kidnapper bellows threats at the surrounding crowd. The entire area is cordoned off by police officers who are attempting to de-escalate the situation using a megaphone. The police captain restrains one of his officers, Abing, warning him not to take a reckless shot. The captain explains that the suspect is far too close to the hostage, using her as a human shield and making a clean shot completely impossible. The officer suggests they use sleeping gas, but the captain rejects it, fearing it would provoke the suspect before it could take effect. While the police hesitate, Lin Zichen decides to take matters into his own hands. He discreetly stoops to pick up a small rock from the pavement and, with incredible speed and precision, flicks it through the air. The pebble strikes Officer Abing's gun, causing it to misfire. The stray bullet ricochets and strikes the hostage-taker squarely in the hand, forcing him to cry out in pain and drop his knife, instantly freeing Teacher Xia. Seizing the golden opportunity, the police captain bellows the order for his team to move in. The officers surge forward and swiftly apprehend the now disarmed suspect. A female officer was busy consoling the shaken but safe Teacher Ta. With the chaos now under control, Lin Zichen discreetly tried to slip away on his bike. However, Shen Xinghan stared at him, her eyes wide with suspicion, and asked if he was the one who threw the stone. He immediately hushed her, insisting they should get going and discuss it later as they began to pedal off. But just as they thought they were in the clear, a commanding voice ordered them to halt. It was the police captain, calling out to ask if Lin Zichen was the person responsible for throwing the rock. Startled by being singled out, Lin Zichen hastily denied any involvement, flashing a nervous grin. The captain observed them riding away, puzzled as to why someone would refuse to take credit for such a heroic act. He commented out loud that there was a reward for acts of courage. The mere mention of a reward was enough to make Lin Zichen's ears perk up. Desperately in need of cash, he slammed on his brakes, skidding to an abrupt stop before scrambling back to the captain. He then sheepishly took back his earlier denial, confessing that he had indeed thrown the rock and explaining just how crucial the money was for him. The captain instructed him to visit the station and file a report, assuring him he would assist with the reward application. After letting their families know, Lin Zichen and Shen Xinghan got ready to head over to the police station. He figured it would be a simple process, but just as the officers were escorting the handcuffed suspect away, the situation took a horrifying turn. The man's face started to contort in a grotesque manner. To their absolute horror, the police realized he was a heretic, and he was transforming into a colossal, aberrant rat right in front of them. The monstrous creature shattered its restraints and immediately went berserk, lashing out with its enormous claws at the surrounding officers. The police captain frantically got on his radio, commanding all units to open fire while ensuring the safety of the civilians. The officers unleashed a volley of gunfire, but the bullets simply bounced off the beast's hide. A panicked report crackled over the radio, identifying the heretic as someone who had fused with the genes of a rat king and urgently requesting immediate backup. Grasping the immense danger, Lin Zichen quickly apologized, then grabbed both Shen Xinghan and the teacher, pulling them away from the chaos and screaming for them to run. He felt a moment of relief seeing the monster wasn't pursuing them, but he knew they had to get to safety immediately. As they were making their escape, a new figure descended from the heavens, cloaked in a brilliant purple aura. It was a female cyborg, clad in sleek, state-of-the-art armor. She delivered a devastating blow to the giant rat, sending it reeling backward. Now hovering in the air, the cyborg, a woman with short, dark purple hair, began to power up a laser cannon embedded in her chest. With a single command of fire, she unleashed an immense and destructive beam of purple energy that completely enveloped the mutant rat. The creature let out a final, agonizing roar as it was utterly disintegrated, leaving behind nothing but a scorched patch on the ground. Lin Zichen could only watch, completely dumbfounded by the cyborg's overwhelming power. With the immediate threat eliminated, both Teacher Ta and Shen Xinghan finally let out huge sighs of relief. Lin Zichen, on the other hand, was more preoccupied with his bike, relieved to see that the powerful blast hadn't touched it, as that would have been a catastrophic financial blow. But just as the adrenaline began to fade, a dreadful thought struck him. He glanced into his bike's basket, only to find that the pricey ghost shadow squid meat had gone bad, emitting a truly foul odor. He now realized his initial hypothesis was spot on. Draining the life essence was what caused the meat to spoil, but there was a noticeable delay in the process. Holding up a now-limp tentacle, he knew he needed a cover story and quickly decided to pin the blame on the chaotic fight and the recently deceased heretic. Putting on his best dramatic performance, he flung the spoiled tentacle to the ground, loudly cursing the heretic and the ensuing battle for ruining his purchase. Cyborgs attack for roasting the meat. Teacher Kaowei offers some words of comfort, reminding everyone that the most important thing is their safety. Although the captain suggests they head home, they find themselves being escorted by the security team directly to the station. To their dismay, they realize they're sharing the ride with the heretic's remains. The laser blast had left nothing but a charred heap of flesh on a gurney, and the stench was overwhelming. As he endures the putrid air in the van, a startling idea begins to form in his mind. Lin Zichen is struck by a memory. The beast fangs from Baiyu had retained their life essence long after the creature was slain. A thrilling new possibility clicks into place. Could this corpse also hold a residual life essence? And if so, could he actually absorb the heretic's Rat King gene for his own power? Huddled in the police van, Lin Zichen contemplates just how much he could potentially devour of the Rat King gene from the heretic's scorched corpse. Deciding to take the risk, he discreetly extends his hand toward the remains. The instant his fingers make contact, a potent surge of crimson energy floods into him, and his system immediately confirms the acquisition. He has devoured a trace of the giant mutant rat's life essence, unlocking its guidebook and achieving an astonishing 5% progress. He is stunned by the sheer amount he absorbed, coming to a crucial realization. The freshness of the source directly correlates with the quantity of life essence he can obtain. However, his subtle movement doesn't escape the notice of the escorting officer, Abing, who sharply tells him to stay put. Lin Zichen quickly plays it off, claiming he just needed to stretch. Later, at the public security office, he knows that while fooling Abing was simple, the security captain would be a much harder nut to crack. The captain informs Lin Zichen that he's already filed the application for his bravery reward, but his tone quickly turns serious. He presses the boy, asking how a middle schooler, from such a distance and in dim lighting, could have possibly managed to land such a precise hit on the heretic's knife hand with a simple rock. Lin Zichen offers a rather flimsy excuse, claiming it's because he frequently trains his right hand. This bizarre response leaves the captain utterly speechless, and their awkward conversation is cut short when Shen Han announces that her aunt has arrived. To Lin Zichen's surprise, his own parents come rushing into the station. His mother, her face a mask of terror, sprints towards him, crying out his name. She immediately pulls him into a desperate embrace. Clinging to him tightly, she frantically asks if he's okay, telling him he scared her half to death. He does his best to calm her down, reassuring her that he's perfectly fine and even managed to earn a bravery reward. Holding him close, his mother makes him promise her one thing. The next time he finds himself in danger, he must hide and prioritize his own safety. With tears welling in her eyes, she confesses that all she wants is to see him grow up safe and sound. Lin Zichen is clearly touched by his mother's profound concern. As they finally leave, he reassures his mother he will always put his safety first. From a distance, the police captain watches them depart, his mind still wrestling with the boy's strange abilities. On his way out, Lin Zichen happens to overhear two female police officers discussing the case. One of them remarks that these deviants are getting bolder by the day, and her partner reveals the heretic was a liberal arts student from Guangyuan University who had been completely brainwashed by the rat god cult. The first officer curses the cult, but the second points out that they must eliminate the root of the problem, the self-proclaimed Rat King. That name immediately snags Lin Zichen's full attention. The moment he's in the car on the way home, he pulls out his phone and begins digging into the rat god cult, shocked to find a mountain of information. He quickly learns that the cult's primary base of operations is in Shanghai City, and its members are mostly disillusioned outcasts from society. Outcasts. He stumbles upon a shocking revelation. The Rat King is attempting to evolve into a superior being, and is compelling its minions to collect the necessary materials for this transformation. This raises a chilling question in his mind. Has the Rat King, a mere aberrant beast, actually achieved sentience? His contemplation is cut short when he glances out the window and spots an enormous rat, almost the size of a house cat, scurrying along the sidewalk. For a fleeting moment, he wonders if it's connected to the Rat King, but he quickly brushes the thought aside, reasoning that in the south, rats of that size aren't entirely unheard of. Shaking off the strange feeling, he notices how silent Shen Han has become. A glance in her direction reveals her squirming awkwardly, her knees clamped firmly together. The reason dawns on him instantly. He remembers that ever since childhood, whenever she becomes overly nervous or frightened, she loses control of her bladder. Though it's a source of embarrassment for her, Lin Zichen has always suspected this unusual reaction might be tied to some dormant power she possesses. Upon their arrival home, Lin Zichen's mother, Jiang Wang, is horrified to find that the beast meat, worth nearly 3,000 yen, has vanished. Lin Zichen scrambles to come up with an excuse, meekly explaining that in the chaos of the emergency, he must have lost it while fleeing. His mother's concern immediately shifts to his well-being, urging him to forget about the meat, insisting that his safety is all that matters. Lin Zichen lets out a silent sigh of relief, thankful that his mother bought the story. His father, Lin Yansen, however, proves to be more obstinate. He declares his intention to go back and search for the costly meat, boasting that an old workhorse like himself is made of tougher stuff. Lin Zichen desperately tries to dissuade him, arguing that it's far too dangerous and the meat is surely spoiled by now. This comment piques his father's suspicion, who asks how he could possibly know it had already gone bad. Breaking into a nervous sweat, Lin Zichen hastily claims it was just an educated guess. Meanwhile, back at the deserted public security office, the police captain finds himself still mulling over the bizarre events of the evening. While smoking a cigarette, he can't get the question out of his head. How could a regular middle school student have hurled a stone with such astonishing force and accuracy? Suddenly, a peculiar sound from the corner shatters the silence. His eyes go wide with shock as he spots a colossal rat, dwarfing any normal rodent, perched atop the filing cabinets. Before he can even process the sight, the monstrous rat leaps down. The captain reacts instantly, drawing his pistol and unloading. The ensuing struggle is swift and brutal, culminating in a chaotic, bloody mess. The following day in class, Lin Zichen finds himself sighing at his desk. As he reflects on the events of the previous night, he has to admit that he's still far too weak compared to the formidable heretic and the female cyborg. He realizes he needs to earn money quickly so he can purchase more beast meat, like the ghost shadow squid, to advance his guidebook's progress bar. He briefly considers becoming an influencer or selling study guides, but he scraps those ideas as they're too conspicuous and go against his primary goal of maintaining a low profile. Then, a brilliant idea suddenly hits him. He recalls that in this world, martial arts and genetic fusion hold far more weight than traditional academics. He resolves that it's time to make a move. Later that day, he makes his way to the gym in Building C, where the martial arts team holds their practice. He spots Coach Guo sipping from a thermos and offers a greeting. The surprised coach asks if he's there to sign up or simply to inquire about the team. Rather than giving a direct answer, Lin Zichen leans in closer and quietly inquires if being on the team provides an opportunity to compete in city-level tournaments, and more importantly, what the prize money is like. The coach flashes a reassuring smile, confirming that not only would he have a shot, but the prize money was in the tens of thousands. With his primary worry now settled, Lin Zichen firmly shakes the coach's hand and declares his intention to join the martial arts team effective immediately. A delighted Coach Guo enthusiastically welcomes him aboard. The coach then assembles the team to introduce their newest member, presenting Lin Zichen and reminding everyone of his impressive victory as the champion of the recent sports meet. His new teammates, Zhang Kai, Hang Tianing, Ashing, Lu Tong, and Han Yiguo, each introduce themselves in turn. Finally, Lin Zichen gives his own introduction. Given that he has no formal martial arts background, Coach Guo proceeds to demonstrate some fundamental fist and leg techniques. He explains that while the moves appear simple, they are deceptively difficult to master, pointing out that even the team's quickest study, Li Shu Tong, required a full week to perfect them. The coach then gestures for Lin Zichen to give it a try. Lin Zichen immediately falls into a ready stance, unbeknownst to them, thanks to his celestial root of wisdom attribute, which blesses him with heaven-sent martial insight. He has already committed to memory and fully comprehended every single detail of the demonstration from mere observation. As he begins to practice the fist techniques, a system notification pops up, awarding him points to his vitality, strength, dexterity, and proficiency. He proceeds to execute the hand and fist movements with an absolutely flawless precision and breathtaking speed. He then transitions seamlessly into the leg techniques, unleashing a series of powerful and fluid kicks. Another system notification appears, granting him points for his leg muscles, dexterity, and proficiency. The coach and the entire team can only watch in utterly stunned silence. The coach's jaw practically hits the floor, and he nearly drops his thermos, finding the scene completely unbelievable. He questions how anyone could master such complex forms perfectly after just a single viewing. As he stares at the impeccable performance, a single, powerful thought solidifies in his mind. This boy had to be a once-in-a-million martial arts prodigy. Later that evening back in Shanghai, Lin Zichen's mother, Jiang Wanqin, calls out that dinner is ready. He eagerly rushes from his room, spoon already in hand, asking what delicious meal she prepared. She proudly reveals a large platter piled high with the ghost shadow squid he had been craving. The aroma is simply divine, and he immediately tells his mother how incredible it smells. She warmly urges him to dig in while it's still hot. He takes his first bite and declares her cooking to be the absolute best in the entire world. Visibly pleased, she encourages him to eat his fill, mentioning she bought 3 full gins just for him. As he enjoys his meal, a system notification materializes. It informs him that by consuming the creature, he has absorbed a trace of the ghost shadow squid's life essence, advancing his guidebook progress to 3.01%. A wave of frustration hits him as he realizes that simply eating the meat is just as effective. If he had only known this sooner, he wouldn't have ruined the first batch just by touching it. While they continue their dinner, a television news report suddenly captures their attention. The story is about a 14-year-old prodigy, now the youngest cyborg in recorded history. After successfully fusing with an energy core, her integrated energy system has granted her superhuman capabilities. She is shown lifting a 5,000-kilogram SUV with a single hand and sprinting 100 meters in just 3 seconds, as well as jumping 8 meters straight up. Watching this display, Lin Zichen mulls over the great debate in his world between the Kyoto prodigy's path of gene fusion and this girl's cybernetic enhancements. Which one was truly the superior route to power? His thoughts are abruptly cut short by another breaking news bulletin. It reports that the security captain they had just met, Han Shan, had met a grim end inside his own office. The report then shows surveillance footage which revealed he was set upon and consumed by a massive mutant rat that had somehow infiltrated the station. Paramedics are then seen wheeling his covered remains into an ambulance. Lin Zichen is completely horrified by the news. He immediately recalls the enormous rat he witnessed the other night. He saw before and wonders if there's a connection, picturing a monstrous rat wreaking havoc on the city. The captain's death serves as a grim reminder of the escalating danger. With a steely gaze, Lin Zichen realizes he must immediately ramp up his training. In the aftermath of the police captain's demise, Lin Zichen commits himself to a punishing and relentless training schedule. After a period of intense practice, he can now blaze through a 100-meter dash in a blistering 4.61 seconds. His physical prowess has simply skyrocketed. His vertical jump reaches an incredible 5.3 meters, and he can hoist a mind-boggling 1,200 kilograms with just one hand. On top of his individual conditioning, he keeps up his martial arts training with the school team, aiming to rapidly enhance his strength in preparation for the upcoming tournament. The very next morning at school, he makes his way to the gym to train, with a curious Shen Qinghan tagging along beside him. Along the way, a girl with pink hair cheerfully greets Lin Zichen and offers him a bottle of fresh milk. He politely declines, thanking her and walks past with Shen Qinghan, leaving the girl disappointed. Watching from a distance is his very own teammate, Jiang Kai. He clenches his fist tightly, filled with resentment that the same person who bested him at the sports meet is now spurning a gift from the girl he fancies. Unable to bottle up his frustration any longer, Jiang Kai storms forward to block their path. He immediately confronts Lin Zichen, chiding him for his terrible manners and for hurting the girl's feelings. When Lin Zichen calmly explains that he's allergic to milk, Jiang Kai flatly refuses to believe him, calling him a liar. Absolutely enraged, Jiang Kai points a finger at Lin Zichen and challenges him to a sparring match. He dictates the terms. If he loses, he will never trouble Lin Zichen again. But if Lin Zichen loses, he'll be forced to drink the entire bottle of milk. The instant the challenge is made, a new system notification pops up. A new achievement mission has just been triggered. Defeat 1,000 unique opponents in formal competition to earn the survival of the fittest biological trait. A sly grin spreads across Lin Zichen's face. This is the exact opportunity he's been waiting for. Enveloped by a menacing purple aura, he accepts the challenge, his eyes glinting with keen anticipation as he agrees to the fight. News of the duel spreads like wildfire throughout the school. 2 students excitedly make plans to go watch the fight between the ever-popular junior, Lin Zichen, and one of the seniors. By the time they arrive, the gym is already swarming with onlookers who have formed a large circle around the sparring mat. The crowd is overwhelmingly on Lin Zichen's side. Many of his female fans are cheering loudly, urging him to teach his opponent a well-deserved lesson, among them the pink-haired girl from earlier, who has her phone out and ready. Jiang Kai scoffs, visibly annoyed that everyone simply assumes he's going to lose. He privately admits that Lin's talent has grown exponentially over the past month. He views this duel as his last chance to put the rising genius back in his place and showcase his own strength. In stark contrast to his opponent's intensity, Lin Zichen seems completely unfazed. He casually remarks that he needs to get home for dinner and asks if they can make the fight a quick one. Taking this as a direct insult, Jiang Kai smirks and agrees to grant his wish. Coach Guo steps between them to officiate the match. He raises his hand to begin, briefly reminding them of the rules. However, right before the fight is set to begin, Jiang Kai suddenly shouts for them to wait. With a condescending grin, he offers Lin Zichen a handicap, pointing out that he has been training for nearly 2 years, while Lin Zichen is just a novice with only 1 month of experience. To be fair, he declares that he will to give Lin Zichen the first 3 moves, a proposition he readily accepts. The instant the words are out, Lin Zichen bursts into action. He covers the space between them in a flash, taking Jiang Kai completely off guard. Before his rival can even think to defend himself, Lin Zichen throws a single, devastating punch. The impact lands with savage force, causing a spray of blood to erupt from Jiang Kai's nose. The fighter is out cold in an instant, crumpling unconscious to the gym floor. The entire room is shocked into a dead silence. Coach Guo's jaw hangs open as he stares in utter disbelief, yelling that the match was decided with just 1 punch. The other members of the martial arts team and the onlookers are just as stunned, muttering about how ridiculous the outcome was, completely unable to comprehend that the entire duel concluded in less than a second. A sudden roar of celebration shatters the silence as Shen Qinghan thrusts her fist into the air, cheering ecstatically for Lin Zichen's overwhelming victory. The other girls, including the one with pink hair, quickly join the chorus, shouting about how incredible he was. As he stands over his vanquished opponent, Lin Zichen gets a system notification. The message confirms that by defeating a rival and earning the admiration of the opposite sex, he has secured priority mating rights. More significantly, his mission progress has now reached 1000. He muses that he still has a very long way to go before unlocking the natural selection attribute. In order to accelerate his progress, he turns his attention to the remaining petrified members of the martial arts team. Flashing a friendly yet deeply unsettling smile, he proposes that they should all have a sparring session as well. The team members can only stare back, their faces drained of all color and pure horror. Instantly, every single one of them begins to make pathetic excuses. One claims to have crammed school, another says his mother is waiting for him for dinner, while the rest suddenly pretend to feel unwell. But before they can make a run for it, Zhang Kai manages to struggle back to his knees. Refusing to accept defeat, he furiously accuses Lin Zichen of launching a sneak attack and vows to absolutely crush him in a rematch. Coach Guo intervenes, telling Zhang Kai to accept his defeat with some dignity. The coach then muses aloud, wondering if the punch was merely a lucky shot, and decides to test this theory on another team member by the name of Shaozi. Upon hearing his name called, a spiky-haired boy freezes in sheer terror. Although he adopts a fighting stance, he is visibly terrified, pleading with Lin Zichen for mercy and begging him not to aim for his face. Just 10 minutes later, the outcome is undeniable. Several members of the martial arts team are now lying unconscious across the gym floor. Lin Zichen stands over their defeated forms, noting that he made sure to hold back and just exchanged a few light blows with them. However, upon checking his system again, he finds himself disappointed. It seems that apart from his initial victory, none of the subsequent spars contributed to his achievement. The rival count is still stuck at 1000. He comes to the realization that friendly sparring sessions are insufficient. To progress, he must defeat rivals in an official competition. Just as he is pondering this, a hand claps down on his shoulder. Coach Guo is grinning like a madman, declaring that Lin Zichen is a true genius. He excitedly proclaims that in little more than a month, the newcomer has already become the team's undisputed ace. Brimming with newfound confidence, the coach declares that with Lin Zichen at the forefront, their school is destined to crush all competition and seize first place at this year's regional martial arts tournament. While Coach Guo is lost in his celebration, Lin Zichen experiences a moment of perfect clarity. He realizes the coach is absolutely right. The upcoming tournament presents the perfect opportunity to face a multitude of official opponents all at once. A new sense of determination washes over him, as he understands that as long as he defeats them within an official competition, every single victory should count toward his goal. His contemplation on his progress is abruptly shattered when a defeated Zhang Kai calls out his name, having just regained consciousness. Staggering to his feet, Zhang Kai points a finger at Lin Zichen and proceeds to formally concede defeat with an unusually bizarre and graphic declaration of submission. His peculiar choice of words leaves everyone present, including Shening Han, Coach Guo, and even Lin Zichen himself, utterly shocked and disturbed. With the duel officially over, the spectators and coach make a hasty retreat, leaving a bewildered Zhang Kai standing alone, muttering that he hadn't even finished his speech. In this particular world, high schoolers must choose between the path of martial arts or the path of academics. Given the world's ever-present dangers, the martial arts class is widely considered the superior choice. Determined not to be left in the dust, Shening Han resolves to join the martial arts class and immediately begins training rigorously alongside Lin Zichen. Their daily routine is nothing short of grueling, beginning with a 30,000-meter run followed by a full hour of intense hand-to-hand combat practice. Following that, they hammer out sit-ups and push-ups to build their physical strength. To conclude each session, Lin Zichen provides Shening Han with a massage to alleviate her muscle fatigue. Of course, Lin Zichen is just as strict with his own training. He pushes himself to his absolute limit daily, driven by the singular goal of winning the tournament and unlocking the natural selection attribute as swiftly as possible. 1 month later, all of their relentless effort is about to be put to the ultimate test. The day of the regional martial arts tournament has finally dawned, and a resolute Lin Zichen is more than ready to compete. The tournament is held at the colossal city gymnasium, with an enormous crowd gathered around the central fighting ring. In the waiting area, the atmosphere is thick with tension. Coach Guo nervously scans the roster, complaining that their school, Shanghai High, drew a match against the undisputed strongest team, Shanghai No. 1 High. Another team member amplifies the growing anxiety, mentioning that their opponents have a fighter who can run the 100-meter dash in under 9 seconds, making them feel hopelessly outmatched. Sensing the team's plummeting morale, Lin Zichen calmly raises his hand and volunteers to take the first fight. Although still apprehensive, Coach Guo agrees to let his star player take the stage. As Lin Zichen strides into the arena, Shening Han enthusiastically cheers for him from the sidelines, while Coach Guo bellows encouragement through a megaphone. Lin Zichen centers himself, preparing for the battle. His opponent, a significantly larger and more muscular student from Shanghai No. 1 High, steps into the ring. He acknowledges Lin Zichen's supposed skill for making it to the tournament as a first year. However, his tone quickly curdles with mockery. He sneers that the stage is no place for a shorty who hasn't even cleared 1.7 meters. Flexing a massive bicep, he promises to show Lin Zichen what a genuine gap in size and power actually feels like. The referee gives the signal for the duel to begin. The larger opponent lunges forward, unleashing a devastating punch. To his utter shock, Lin Zichen doesn't back down. He effortlessly sidesteps the blow and counters with a swift, precise punch to his opponent's chest. The impact is catastrophic. The sheer force sends the massive student flying backward clear across the arena, rendering him unconscious before he even hits the floor. The announcer stares in dumbfounded silence before finally stammering out a victory for Lin Zichen. From the sidelines, Shining Han springs to her feet, cheering that her Xiao Chen was beyond amazing. The rest of the Shanghai High team erupts in a joyous uproar, mobbing their coach and shouting that Lin Zichen is an absolute monster, dismissing his opponent's physique as nothing more than show muscle. Meanwhile, on the sidelines, the coach for Shanghai No. 1 High is seething with rage, berating his defeated student for charging in blindly instead of utilizing his footwork. Back in the ring, Lin Zichen receives a system notification confirming his victory over another tournament rival, which improves his ranking and brings his total elimination count to 2,100. He clenches his fist, satisfied that these intense matches are precisely what he needs to advance his skills. The opposing coach, determined to halt his streak, calls his next fighter forward, a boy named Chen Fong, and orders him to crush the first year as quickly as possible. Chen Fong calmly accepts the command, stepping onto the stage and assuming a ready stance, looking far more composed than the last fighter. The announcer signals for the second duel to begin, and Chen Fong immediately showcases his superior technique, moving with incredible speed. He launches a flurry of attacks, but Lin Zichen calmly meets the assault, blocking a powerful kick with a single hand. However, the sheer force of the block sends Chen Fong spinning wildly through the air before he crashes hard against the arena floor. The impact leaves him unconscious, and medics rush in with a stretcher to carry him away, stating he needs a head scan. The crowd is left completely bewildered by the sudden outcome, murmuring among themselves and questioning what just happened. Many begin to speculate that the student from Shanghai High must possess an insane amount of luck. Some angry spectators even start shouting that the tournament must be rigged, demanding a full refund for their tickets. However, the coach of Shanghai No. 1 High knows better, clutching his head in despair as he realizes with dawning horror that this isn't luck at all. This first-year student from Shanghai High is the real deal, a true monster in the making. Back in the waiting area, the coach devises a new strategy, calling his next fighter a spiky-haired boy named Ga Fei. He gives Ga Fei strict orders to focus entirely on defense, warning him that he absolutely cannot afford to lose this match. Ga Fei, however, is brimming with unshakable confidence, calmly telling his coach not to worry and assuring him of his victory. As he walks to the ring, Ga Fei internally dismisses Lin Zichen's victories, believing his opponent is weak and has only won through cheap tricks. With his superior speed, capable of running the 100-meter dash in under 9 seconds, and his greater experience, he is certain he cannot lose. The crowd buzzes with anticipation, with spectators discussing Ga Fei's reputation and marveling at his incredible speed. One person mentions that his father is a gene fusion user, explaining Ga Fei's enhanced abilities, and the consensus is that Lin Zichen's impressive run is about to end. Despite acknowledging his great potential, they believe he's met his match as the announcer signals for the duel to begin. His instructions, Ga Fei immediately goes on the offensive, lunging at Lin Zichen with a powerful kick. He follows up with a series of rapid strikes, unleashing his special technique, the flowing water-shattering rock fist. His coach watches in absolute fury, shouting at his disobedient student for attacking, but Ga Fei scoffs at the very idea of defense. He believes a genius like himself doesn't need such a cowardly tactic. Meanwhile, Lin Zichen, easily evading the blows, finds the technique rather interesting. He finds it so interesting, in fact, that he decides to learn it right there on the spot, frustrating Ga Fei, who can't land a single hit. Ga Fei stops, panting for breath, and demands to know how Lin Zichen is dodging his attacks so effortlessly. Unfazed, Lin Zichen calmly taunts him, asking if he has any other moves, which causes the enraged Ga Fei to unleash another desperate barrage of punches. Seeing the same predictable moves, Lin Zichen decides the time for observation is over, thinking to himself, "All right then, let's end this." Effortlessly dodges the final punch and counters with a single powerful kick to Ga Fei's midsection, ending the match instantly. The crowd is once again left in stunned, speechless silence. The silence is shattered by thunderous cheers from the Shanghai High supporters. Coach Guo and Shining Han are ecstatic, shouting that their Xiao Chen is a beast and celebrating his third consecutive victory. The rest of the tournament proceeds just as easily. The next few opponents are even weaker. He effortlessly defeats each one, and soon he has single-handedly wiped out all 5 fighters from the opposing team. Over the next 2 days, the story is much the same. He continues his dominant performance, taking down 2 more schools by himself. Thanks to his incredible display, he successfully leads Shanghai High to win the championship. He and his team proudly pose with their medals and trophy. However, as he checks his system, his rival count is only 161,000. He realizes with disappointment that at this rate, it will take years to unlock the natural selection attribute. Despite his slow quest progress, there is a silver lining. He didn't expect Coach Guo to be so generous, but he gets the bulk of the tournament prize money, a full 20,000 yuan. Combining this with prize money from academic competitions, he now has around 30,000 yuan. That money doesn't last long. He immediately spends it all at the supermarket on a massive supply of ghost shadow squid meat. For the next several weeks, he devours the expensive meat at every meal. After consuming 30 jin, his codex unlock progress for the ghost shadow squid reaches 33%. His intensive training and consumption of beast meat pay off. By his second year of middle school, he breaks through to the next level, advancing from ordinary Tier 3 to Tier 4. His physical abilities reach new heights. He can now effortlessly lift 1,890 kg with one hand, jump 5.6565 m vertically, and sprint 100 m in just 4.49 seconds. Time flies, and soon he and Shining Han graduate from Shanghai's middle school division. However, when the high school entrance exam results are released, their paths seem destined to diverge. A heartbroken Shining Han sits in her room crying. She asks Lin Zishan why. After all her hard work, they can't go to the same high school anymore. He explains that while he ranked first in both liberal arts and martial arts, and her academic scores were excellent, her martial arts score wasn't high enough for the elite class at Shanghai High. As he comforts the crying Shenqing Han, she asks what will happen now. He tells her the principal of Shanghai High is coming to his house, likely to recruit him, and asks if she will come. Feeling hopeless, she tearfully replies that it has nothing to do with her, as the principal is obviously only coming for him. Taking her hand, Lin Zichin pulls her up and leads her out of the room. He tells her not to worry, he has a plan. He reveals his one condition for staying at Shanghai High. Shenqing Han has to be his deskmate. As promised, the principal of Shanghai High visits Lin Zichin's home. For what felt like an eternity, she, his mother, and Shen Qingyan engaged in a deep discussion about his future, with the principal passionately arguing for him to remain at her school. Just as the meeting was drawing to a close and the principal rose to leave, she made one final, tempting offer. She promised Lin Zichin that if he committed to staying, she would fulfill any one request he desired. Recognizing this golden opportunity, Lin Zichin, he lays down his single condition. Shining Han must be permitted to remain in the same class with him. The principal's gaze shifts to the anxious Shining Han, confirming her identity. Without a moment's hesitation, she agrees to his terms. With a warm smile, she instructs them both to report to Shanghai High to begin the new school year together. Absolutely ecstatic, Lin Zichin and Shining Han express their gratitude. With their high school careers now guaranteed, Lin Zichin enters his last junior high martial arts tournament. As everyone anticipated, his sheer, overwhelming power effortlessly carries his team to yet another championship victory. He decides to invest the prize money to at last unlock the Ghost Shadow Squid Codex. He was merely 20% shy of completion, and the new prize money was more than enough to max out the progress bar completely. Uncertain of the potential outcome, he retreats to a secluded forest on the outskirts of Shanghai as a precaution. Deciding there's no time to waste, he starts consuming the life essence from the remaining squid meat. A potent, blue energy immediately envelops his body as a system notification confirms a massive absorption of essence is underway. His eyes fly open as he feels a climactic surge of power, and the Codex progress bar finally strikes 100%. A new alert flashes, announcing that he has successfully unlocked the Ghost Shadow Squid Codex and acquired a new biological attribute, Blessing of Liquid Affinity. This unique ability greatly enhances his affinity with water, allowing him to move with complete freedom and even disappear within aquatic environments. However, as the power settles into his being, he stands in the silent forest, clutching the limp squid tentacles, feeling that his new ability is somewhat disappointing. Still feeling a bit let down, Lin Zichin decides to test his new skill in a nearby pond. He quickly discovers his Blessing of Liquid Affinity does have a few perks. He can remain submerged for extended periods without his skin wrinkling, and swimming is now far easier thanks to reduced water resistance. Beyond that, however, there are no other discernible effects. He sits in the water and reasons that since the Ghost Shadow Squid is a low-tier beast, it's only logical that the resulting ability isn't particularly potent. He vows that to obtain superior attributes, he must either save up for higher-grade beast meat or become powerful enough to hunt formidable wild mutant beasts on his own. The haunting memory of the terrifying giant mutant rats only serves to strengthen his resolve, and he clenches his fist, more determined than ever to grow stronger. With less than 1 week remaining before school begins, Lin Zichin's mother and Shining Han's family decide to take a trip, providing a perfect opportunity to further study his new liquid affinity. Lin Zichin immediately suggests a trip to the beach. As they wade into the ocean, Shining Han shivers, complaining about how cold the seawater is. Lin Zichin, on the other hand, feels completely comfortable, as if he were born in it. He encourages her to get used to it before diving headfirst into the water and swimming off with astonishing speed. As he propels himself through the waves, his system rewards him with stat points for both swimming and diving. From the shoreline, an anxious Shining Han calls out, pleading with him to teach her how to swim. Lin Zichin's head breaks the surface as he suddenly recalls that his childhood friend has never learned. He patiently begins to teach her the fundamental techniques. Considering her average athletic ability, he fully expects her to struggle. To his surprise, however, Shining Han proves him completely wrong. She excitedly exclaims that swimming is remarkably easy and that she picked it up almost instantly, diving beneath the surface with zero effort. She moves through the water with grace and reemerges with a look of pure astonishment on her face. Stunned that she could dive without any instruction, Lin Zichin watches in disbelief as a strange blue aura, seemingly made of water itself, emanates from her body. After she surfaces, she excitedly tells him just how incredible it feels. She notes that while opening her eyes underwater should sting, she feels absolutely no discomfort. In fact, she finds the sensation refreshingly cool and even pleasant. Her peculiar observation leaves Lin Zichin deep in thought as he watches her swim away, finding the entire situation highly unusual. He reasons that even with a natural talent for water, there's simply no way she could have mastered all the necessary skills so instantaneously. Her rapid learning is simply not normal. Suddenly, a startling realization dawns on him as he recalls her lifelong problem with bedwetting. He wonders if this supposed weakness is actually a sign of a powerful, innate water affinity she was born with. The idea sends a thrill of excitement through him, and he becomes convinced she might possess some kind of special cultivation body, just like a character from his parents' novels. To test this theory, they continue their dive into the deep. Her performance shocks him even more as they explore the underwater world. He realizes they have been holding their breath for over 10 minutes, an incredible feat for a complete beginner like Shinning Han. As they continue to swim, Shinning Han's expression suddenly changes. A strange, swirling sound begins to vibrate through the water all around her, causing them both to look up and search for the source. They surface abruptly, and Shinning Han cries out as the water around her begins to glow an eerie blue and swirl violently. Later that night, as they walk along the beach, Lindsay Chin asks what happened down there. Shivering, she explains that underwater, she kept hearing strange and creepy sounds right next to her ear. He comforts her, gently asking what kind of sounds they were. She tells him she couldn't understand the language, but it was a female voice that echoed relentlessly until the moment she surfaced. To help the frightened Shinning Han calm down, Lindsay Chin takes her back to their hotel room. Later, he scours the internet for any information about the strange female voice, but finds absolutely no results. Unsettled and unable to sleep, he channels his restless energy into training. As he pushes through 1,000 weighted sit-ups, he feels a sudden, intense surge of power. A system notification announces that his hard work has finally paid off. He has advanced to ordinary Tier 5. Surprised but pleased, he considers his new strength, realizing that at Tier 5, he is now powerful enough to rival a fully grown giant mutant rat. A determined glint flashes in his eyes as he clenches his fist, confident that tearing the beasts apart with his bare hands is no longer just a fantasy. Eager to test his new limits, he heads to the empty beach under the cover of night. The boost to his stats is immense. His 100-meter dash time has dropped to a mere 3.64 seconds, and his vertical jump has increased to an incredible 6.98 meters. To truly test his strength, he finds a nearby car and discovers he can now lift the 1,600-kilogram vehicle with just one hand. With this monumental progress, his life moves forward. The vacation eventually ends, and he and Shinning Han begin high school at Shanghai High. On their very first day, they arrive early for their assigned class duty. Two new female classmates immediately recognize him, whispering excitedly to each other about how handsome he is and how lucky they are to be on duty with him. While he is surprised his classmates already know him, something even more unexpected happens. The simple act of performing his class duty triggers a brand new system quest. The achievement requires completing 1,000 cooperative tasks to unlock a new biological attribute called Social Animal. As he cleans the classroom with Shinning Han, he can't help but wonder what this new attribute will actually do. Since the school year has only just begun, he takes the opportunity to visit the Mammoth supermarket after school, especially now that he has unlocked the Ghost Shadow Squid. With his codex ready for a new entry, he knows it's time to select a new target for his ability while browsing the expensive beast meat aisle. His eyes suddenly lock onto a promising new item, for inside one of the refrigerated cases rests the packaged head of a savage giant eagle. It's priced at a steep 1,998 yuan per jin, but an eager grin forms on his face as he seizes the package, his decision instantly made. This creature would undoubtedly be his next conquest.